So what if all the confusion we see today, all the tension around gender roles, what if it's all because of a mission that's already finished? And we're going to dive into a pretty provocative blueprint from a Korean cultural lecture that argues exactly that. And it lays out a really different path to harmony. Let's get right into it.
Okay, so the whole argument we're looking at today really boils down to this one big question. What are the ideal roles for men and women in society now? According to this specific viewpoint, the reason our world feels kind of lost is because, well, we just don't have a clear answer anymore.
So here's the plan for breaking this all down. First, we're going to look at the problem itself, what the speaker calls society's missing ideals. Then we'll dig into how we got here, looking at what happened with men's role versus women's role. After that, we'll see how this connects to the rise of the female CEO, and finally we'll unpack the proposed solution for a new kind of harmony.
All right, let's jump into the diagnosis. The speaker argues that the root cause of all this modern anxiety, it's not really about economics or politics. No, it's something deeper. It's a crisis of ideals, a fundamental lack of role models for us to look up to.
The idea here is that society feels, well, gloomy and kind of adrift because we've lost our big societal father figure and mother figure. And let's be super clear, this isn't about your actual mom and dad. We're talking about the guiding archetypes, the role models for society as a whole.
You know, this concept is so important to the argument that there's a specific Korean word for it, sung. It means an ideal, a figure, an exemplary model. And really, the entire argument we're exploring today hangs on this single point. Society is confused because we're missing a modern song for both men and for women.
Okay, so if the big problem is that we're missing these ideals, the obvious next question is, why? Why are they missing? To figure that out, the lecture takes us back in time, specifically to the post-war era. And it starts with the job that was given to men.
Right, so after all the devastation of the war, men were handed a super clear mission. The speaker calls it the first task, and it was simple. Get out there and rebuild the nation's economy. And that's what they did. They poured everything they had into external work, into industry, into economic growth. And this very clear purpose gave them authority and a solid place in society.
In this quote from the lecture, man, it just perfectly captures the intensity of that role. The focus was so absolute, so singular, that men basically became breadwinning machines. Their whole identity was pretty much sacrificed and just wrapped up in building that material foundation for the country.
And here's the crazy paradox, right? They did it. They absolutely succeeded. The economy got rebuilt, mission accomplished. But after finishing that first task, nobody ever gave them a second task. So in their biggest moment of triumph, men were suddenly left adrift. An entire generation achieved its goal and then lost its purpose.
Okay, so that's the story for the men, a clear external mission. But what about the women? What was going on with them during all this? Well, this is the other half of the equation, and according to this speaker, this is exactly where the big imbalance started.
So the argument goes like this. While the men were out there building the country's external framework, the hardware, women had an equally important job, but it was internal. Their task was to cultivate the inner wisdom needed to actually guide society. But, and this is the key point, that crucial preparation just never happened.
This really breaks it all down, doesn't it? The best analogy is building a computer. Men's job, their first task, was building the hardware, the economy, the roads, the buildings. And that mission? It's done. Check. Women's job, the second task, was to develop the software, the vision, the culture, the direction for society. But according to this view, they were totally unprepared for that role. So what's the result? You've got this incredibly powerful machine with no operating system. And that imbalance right there is seen as the root of all the problems we're facing today.
So this historical imbalance we've just talked about, the finished hardware and the missing software, this leads directly to a modern phenomenon that the speaker sees as a massive, fundamental error. And that is the rise of the female CEO.
Think about it. With their own societal role totally undefined, women started moving into the only space that seemed to have any clear value or purpose, the world of work that men had just finished building. But here's the critical part. They didn't enter as collaborators, but as competitors in the very same game. And this, according to the lecture, is what led to the female CEO.
And this quote, this gets right to the heart of the speaker's belief. The argument is that a woman's true societal role isn't to be a worker or a CEO. The ideal song, the true model for a woman, is that of a mother. And we're not just talking about a mother to her own kids, but a guiding, nurturing figure for all of society. Someone who can feel the pain of the people and then figure out how to solve it.
And this idea leads to a pretty stark prediction. The speaker argues that female CEOs are actually being set up to fail. The reasoning? They're jumping into this super cutthroat business world that they just weren't conditioned for. So while men might seem like they're cooperating at first, the prediction is that they'll eventually undermine them. And because women, in this view, lack the experience to spot these hidden power plays, their businesses will ultimately just collapse.
Okay, so if competition is the wrong way to go, then what's the right way? Well, this final part of the argument lays out a pretty radical blueprint for how to restore that balance and create a whole new kind of social harmony.
The solution that's proposed isn't about competition at all. It's about a totally new form of collaboration. It's a model where women become the thinkers, the planners, the visionaries for society. And men, they become the powerful executors who bring that vision to life.
So here's the 4-step process for how this is all supposed to work. Step 1. Women get together in groups and figure out what society's biggest problems are. Step 2. They use their unique insights to research and design really detailed projects, the content, to solve those problems. Step 3. They present these complete, well-thought-out blueprints to men. And finally, Step 4. The men take these plans and execute them. And in doing so, they finally find their second task, that new purpose they've been missing.
And the idea is that through this kind of symbiotic process, society finally gets its balance back. Men would be respected again for doing great things in service of a bigger vision, and they become that true father figure. And women would be respected for their incredible wisdom and guidance, becoming the true mother figure. They would both finally find their proper song, their ideal role.
So there you have it. That's the blueprint laid out in this lecture. It's a vision of complementary roles, all designed to create total societal harmony. And it leaves us with a really big question to think about. Is this a forward-looking model for a new kind of balance? Or is it a framework that just takes us right back to the past?